Welcome to Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. I'll be covering every studio song the band has recorded and every bonus track that I can find. Each week we'll go over a new song from the beginning to where they are currently, and as they keep adding albums, I'll keep adding shows. Let the deep dive party begin.
In the magic garden, some were singing, some were dancing.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. I am your host, Scott Haskin, here with this fan-based but band-endorsed podcast, sailing through the music of Uriah Heep from the very beginning of their first album, Very Heavy, Very Humble, all the way through their newest album, and that is called Living the Dream. And then the next one that they're going to make, and the next one, and the next one after that, I will cover every studio album there is, and some interesting bonus stuff that I have recently unearthed that I'm very excited to bring you down the road. So we are here talking about the last bonus track on the album, The Magician's Birthday, today. Kind of sad that this album is already over. I've really enjoyed covering it. A lot of great memories I have associated with these songs, and it's just been a great album from beginning to end. This song is no different. It's a little happier than some of the songs that we've heard on this album, which have dealt with a little more darker subject matter. But it's a good song. And what's really nice is that we have a really unique opportunity today because there are two versions of the song that we're going to listen to. The first one is just the outtake, and it's a previously unreleased version. And, it has that sound of some of the demos that we've heard with the really big reverb snare and that. It doesn't sound bad, but certainly not polished for release. And then we have an instrumental version of the song, which does have that a little more of that mixed polish to it, but no vocals. And this is kind of a rare opportunity because we don't get to hear a lot of instrumental Uriah Heep. I think is this the first time? I think it is. I think this is the first one. So even more exciting and a great way to end the season of season 5 here, The Magician's Birthday. But it's a great album. I will admit, very excited to get to Sweet Freedom. When I first started thinking about doing the show, I think that was the album that I was just like immediately, oh my God, I can't wait to go over Sweet Freedom, because I have a lot of personal connections with that album, and it means a lot to me, as all of these do, but some more than others. And Sweet Freedom certainly has a solid spot in my heart and soul, if you will. But before we get to this is the Monday show, of course, and it's very important that we do some updates here. So I want to let you guys know that I have made a couple of updates to the websites. Phil Lanson's new book is available now, I believe, and the previous book is also available in the trilogy. Third one will be coming soon, but I have the links to both of those books on each the United States and the UK Amazon websites. Those are on the front page of the Uriah Heep podcast page of my website. So if you go to scotthaskin.com, you click Uriah Heep podcast link, or just go down to the show notes, copy and paste the link I put in there. I've also put a hyperlink in there. The reason I've changed the notes is because I realized that some of the outlets that the podcast goes to recognizes the hyperlinks and they work just fine. Other outlets, the hyperlinks just show up as plain text and do not actually go anywhere. They're just underlined so you think they do. So what I've done is I've taken, I've left the hyperlink in there, but I've also just added the website that you can copy and paste into your favorite browser or on your phone or wherever you like. So hopefully that'll make it easier for you guys. That's, what's the point of having a link if it's not easily accessible? But I've done that. I've also added the link to the Uriah Heep official YouTube channel, where you can hear Phil Lanson talk about his books. He talks about his songwriting process. We've got a bunch of interviews from Mick on there. And we've got, of course, the Ask Mick questions also all appear on that channel, as well as some Mick Mondays videos where he talks about some of his favorite music. And it's a really great insight into Mick's experience. I really enjoy those shows as well. But Ask Mick has been the bigger thing as of late. He's done a lot of questions, getting up to 100 now. That's a lot. They're fairly short clips, so you can just kind of listen to them as you please, but go to the channel. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of great stuff there. There's some live stuff too, I believe. If I remember right, I think there's some live videos as well. And I know how you guys love your live songs. So all that is there. And we have some people and some things to talk about really quickly before we move on to the song. First and foremost, I want to thank, I almost said Frank, I want to thank my good friend Scott Lazinski for doing such a beautiful job on the show logo. He did both the light and the dark versions that I switch off from album to album. Uriah Heep, The Magician's Birthday, has been a light logo, so now we'll be switching back to the midnight logo, as I like to call it. And he did a great job on that, so thank you very much. I'd also like to thank my friends at Audionamics, who make such a wonderful product with their Instant Dialogue Cleaner, also known as IDC. I say it every week on the show, guys, and I mean it. I will not do a podcast without Instant Dialogue Cleaner. I think it is one of the best products on the market, certainly the most useful plugin I have ever had in my entire life, and they're a great team of people to work with. They've featured me on their website, and they've also featured me at the NAMM show in 2020, which I was very flattered by. If you look at my profile on Facebook, you can see a picture of me. Well, I don't know what it's like if you're listening to this in the future, but in real time, there's a picture of me at the Audionamics booth, and they're displaying the demo that they did with one of my podcast episodes on their screen, which was really cool. But they're wonderful people on top of putting out incredible products. So go check out their website at audionamics.com, AUDIONAMIX.com. For those of you who are studio guys doing anything with podcasting, dialogue, audiobooks, or if you want to check out their other product, Extract Stems, they are doing some amazing things with splitting music into separate tracks. So what we get is a mixed album. And, once an album's mixed, you can't take the sugar out of the cake after you've baked it, can you? Now you can, and they will help you do that with a pretty incredible product. And they have another, like a huge mastering service, or a huge production service that they do, where they actually work with like restoring films and helping artists and all. It's really amazing what they do. So go check out their website. And like I said, they're just great people. And last but not least, of course, Dave White, who has just been a paragon of helping me get the word out on the show. Absolutely fantastic guy on top of that. Great guitar player too, by the way, and plays a mean keyboard. So thank you, Dave, for helping out, for all you do for the band, for the website, and directing the social media. Just a lot of work there, and it's much appreciated. And of course, I would be remiss if I didn't mention Ace. Ace is the manager of Uriah Heep, and he has been incredibly helpful, getting me contacts, getting me information as I've needed it to help put the show together. And he's got his own wonderful podcast. If you haven't heard it, it is Ace on Music. I've got links to both the YouTube and the Stitcher radio show. He also does have a Patreon where you can, you can go behind the scenes and hear what happens after the taping of the show that is displayed on Stitcher and YouTube. And it's really good stuff. He knows so much about the industry. He's had so many wonderful experiences. It's really great. Now, the YouTube channel goes on to have a lot of other content as well. But if you're into just audio podcasts, go to Stitcher. It's Ace on Music, and just check out the links in the show notes. Also, our friend Allegra over at Gotta Hear 'Em All, she chronicles the live history of Deep Purple and Emerson, Lake and Palmer / Emerson, Lake and Powell, along with a lot of other really cool and interesting tidbits. It's a great website if you're fans of either of those bands. Go check them out. And if you're not fans, go check them out. It's just a lot of interesting articles that she's put together, and that's a lot of work. So, throw her some appreciation. She does a great job with that. And, of course, how could I let a Monday go by without thanking my brothers at the Deep Dive Podcast Network, who are just killing it these days? And, between the shows and starting into the merchandise arena, just some really great stuff. Nate and John at the Deep Purple Podcast. Obviously, Nate was just on helping me cover The Magician's Birthday. John was on helping me cover Easy Livin' when we were on Demons and Wizards. And I had so much fun with both of those guys. And we're going to have some other people on the show, too. The Simple Man at Skinnerd Reconsidered Podcast. Terry T-Bone Mathley at T-Bone's Prime Cuts, who is doing a new show called On the Other Side. And he is just a couple of interviews in, but man, this guy was just born to interview people. I could have listened to easily another couple of hours of each of those interviews and been perfectly entertained. Unlike me, he's very well researched and very eloquent, whereas I'm not. But we also have Rye at Sabbath Bloody Podcast, who also just did a guest spot on the Deep Purple podcast covering the Black Sabbath album Born Again that Ian Gillan sang on. God, I love that album, and I think they did such an amazing job on that podcast. One of my favorite episodes of theirs, and go check that out. And of course, last but again, not least, our friends Paul, Joe, and David at the Lap of the Pods podcast, which is all about the music of Queen. And they are just so much fun to listen to. Great guys, a lot of interesting thoughts as they just kind of seem to really just sit down and have a very organic conversation about it. And I really enjoy that as well. So check out those podcasts. Of course, after you've listened to today's episode of Uriah Heep, the Magicians Podcast, the links to all those guys is in the show notes, of course. And it's also on the website as well. So where are we? We are going to talk about this wonderful song here called Silver White Man. Let's kick it off with the vocal version. Here it is, Silver White Man by Uriah Heep. I was getting so into it, I almost forgot to stop and talk about it. Great intro. It's really nice and light and happy. Just has like a good kind of, let's go have some fun, start your day kind of feel to it. Real positive, something that definitely would have been a little weird, I think, on this album with this intro, only because the other songs seem to be, a little more dark and reflective, but definitely a good little bit.
Just looking around the sky, trying to reason why the feeling is right for someone to obey. He's never been seen before, but he's somewhere out there, I'm sure. And he talks in a whisper that most don't even hear.
I really like those fills on the snare, just quick little, short stroke rolls, and they really fill in that gap pretty well. But it's a nice progression. I really like the vocal sound on this. I like the pattern of the vocals, the pitch that he's at. I think it's really good, really comfortable for his voice, and it just sounds fantastic. Just a kind of different delivery than we're used to hearing. It's in his style, but it just kind of feels a little different because, like I said, the whole thing's a little bit happier and just a little bit different of a mood than what we've become accustomed to on this album.
A silver white man on a silver white horse, and I hope that he's coming to meet me. Silver white man on a silver white horse, and I hope he'll be able to greet me. Do-be-do-do, do-be-do-do-do-do-do. Do-be-do-do, do-be-do-do-do-do-do.
So the music is great through that, right? I just love that. I love that it's a straight beat. I think it helps carry the vocals really nicely. The bass is playing exactly the way that you would expect it to play on a Uriah Heep song at this point. But the first half of that vocal I really like. I think the words are good. I think the melody of it is really nice. I enjoy that. The doobie-doos, that I have to guess that was a placeholder. When you look at the number of very talented lyricists in this band, I have to think that they were just playing with this song at this point, and that's why it was, an unreleased version, obviously, because they hadn't finished it. But I can't imagine, we had like a little bit of stuff in Look at Yourself where it wasn't actual words. We just had like that toot, but this is a little beyond that, I think. And with the amount of people in this band that can write great lyrics, I have to think that this was just a placeholder. Let's put the song down. Let's see where we're at. We'll take a look at it and dissect it and all that. So I have nothing official on this, but I have to think that that was the case, because I can't imagine that they wouldn't have put lyrics in that spot, or maybe something musically instead. So I have to think that that was just filler. Is it me, or does the vocal sound a little bit like he's tired or something through this part? Maybe it's just his way of experimenting through the vocal. I'm not sure, but it's definitely not the full-on typical production that we would be used to. So I'm going to go back to assuming that, again, this was just a piece in the works. Definitely like where it's going, though. I think it's fantastic. Another one that, you can't have it all, and I get that. And not every song is going to be released, and I get that. I've written some that I don't think are really fit for public consumption, and I don't release those. And I'm sure that this band felt the same way, or maybe the producer did. Maybe there were, fights over that. I have no idea. But I think that this is another one that I just see a lot of potential, and I think it could have been polished up and finished and been a great track. What album it would have fit on, I'm not sure, because I don't think Magician's Birthday, I don't think Sweet Freedom. So by that point, they'd be like, well, we had demos and stuff, but we're working on new material based on everything that we've learned, as I've talked about before. So it's kind of like really hard to go back to some of those older songs. Now, when artists go out as solo artists, sometimes they'll go, well, I need a couple more songs for the album. And what was that thing that we were working on? Maybe I'll use that, since we never finished it. And that happens a lot too. But in any case, it's a great song. I like where it's going. I like the feel of it. And let's just see what happens next.
Because of the way that it creep, to stay on the silver white steed, trying to find out the people who they love. A silver white man on a silver white horse, hope that he's coming to see me. Silver white man on a silver white horse, and I hope you'll be able to see me. Yeah. Do-be-do-do, do-be-do-do-do-do-do. Do-be-do-do, do-be-do-do-do-do-do.
There are some really cool bass parts in this song. He's just playing away as he always does, but really always innovative. He always finds new and creative ways to get through every song, and it really amazes me. I wish I could think like that. I wish my brain worked the way that his does. My bass lines, for the most part, tend to be a lot more simplistic than that. And certainly, if it's something I know I'm going to be playing on bass, I have to write them simple because I'm not that talented, but Gary certainly was. Really loved just the rhythm of it. It's a great song. It moves really well. Like I said, except for this one section that kind of bothers me a little bit. But if I look at it as a placeholder, like I said, I think I'm okay with it. I can get through it. But also, I think too that it feels like this was hey, let's lay this down before we go home. I don't mean that from a musical standpoint, but I definitely feel that with the vocals. I don't want to use the term lackluster, because I don't think that's it. I think he just sounds like he's kind of, done for the day in a couple parts, or maybe wasn't sure what to do if this was still a song in development. But either way, I'm really glad I've been able to hear it, because I think it's a great song. Okay, so there was some voice cracking and such in there, but overall, a great song. Had a lot of potential, I think. I think if they would have developed it more, just based on what I've heard from them, typically there most likely would have been a couple of different changes in there musically. This was a pretty straightforward piece, and maybe that's how they wrote at this point. Just kind of straightforward. And then, hey, let's try this and let's add that. I'm not sure. I'd love to have been a fly on the wall during these sessions, though, I'll tell you. But lots of fun. It's a good song. I'm glad we got to hear the vocal version. I'm going to play a couple of spots through the instrumental version so that you can hear what that's like. And the only place that I have found this is, as I researched the album, is actually on this particular deluxe edition of the CD. So fantastic track. And, you could do your own version of it. You could sing over the top of Uriah Heep's music. And, but don't release it because that would be a copyright infringement. You have to be careful. So anyway, let's check out a little bit of the instrumental version. So you can already hear the mix is much better. It's more refined. It's cleaner. It's a little more balanced. We're hearing more guitar. Before we were hearing much more keyboard than guitar. So it's balanced better. Just a much better thing to listen to as far as that part of the delivery. Well, I'm noticing some piano that I didn't hear in the other version. I'm also really getting to hear what the guitar is doing, which was a little bit more buried before. I thought it was well balanced, but it didn't stand out enough for me to be able to really tell what was going on with it. And here it's much more prominent in the mix, which is nice. I can hear what he's doing, and it definitely adds a different element to the song. Yeah, it has a great groove to it, a really good feel. The song is in motion, and even without the vocal to help guide it along, it's still interesting to listen to, and I like that. I mean, obviously, if they would have done it as an instrumental, there would be a lot more going on musically, but when you're designing a track to back up a singer, there's certain things that you add, and there's certain things that you leave out to give room for the voice. But this is really nice. I really dig this. So, of course, as we get to the fade out, we've got some classically Kerslake just hitting cymbals on every snare, really giving it some profound accents. But really great song. Again, I would have loved to have seen some further development on it. Definitely would have loved to have seen where in the band's catalog it would have fit best. But really cool. I'm glad we got to hear the instrumental version of it too, because that gives us a little more insight. Like I said, the piano alone I didn't notice in the regular version, so it could have been there. It could have been buried in the mix, just like the guitar sounds might have been very buried in the mix as well. But in this particular version, we got to hear some nice, really well balanced music. So that's it for this one, guys, and that is it for season 5, The Magician's Birthday. Join me tomorrow as we start to dig into Sweet Freedom. Cheers. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Uriah Heep, The Magician's Podcast. If you have enjoyed this show, please consider going over to Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast outlet, leaving a rating or a review. Be sure to subscribe to make sure that you are notified when new episodes are available. Please be sure to share this podcast with your fellow Uriah Heep enthusiasts and anyone who you think would like Uriah Heep, which should be everyone. And if you are so inclined, please feel free to contribute to the Patreon account. And if you are not a Patreon subscriber, you can also pay through the PayPal link on the website listed in the show links below. I would also like to thank Uriah Heep for their very generous support of the show, and thank you guys for listening. We'll see you in the next episode. Happy days!